Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Citizen NJ0151 Tsuyosa. This watch is available from Amazon.de for €247. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a cardboard watch box, which is housed inside this outer cardboard box. So I'll remove it and show it to you. This is the watch box itself, made from black cardboard, branded with Citizen. One withdraws the drawer from the sleeve, which is a snug fit. And inside the base of the drawer is a cutout, and inside that is this folded piece of metal, which is coated with vinyl. So the watch is a snug fit inside, but this is disappointing. It's acceptable for brands in the low tier, below €100, to use cardboard watch boxes like this, but I think Citizen could do better. I would like to see them upgrade this to a plastic watch box which is vinyl coated, or alternatively a PU leather or vinyl leather travel roll, because that would be more aesthetically pleasing. Now inside the outer box there's also a second box, as you can see, and I'll show you the items that contains. This is the owner's instruction manual leaflet, which you fold out. And on the last page you have a QR code which you can scan with your Android or iPhone, and that will download the owner's instruction manual and also the operating instructions for the movement used, which is the Miyota Caliber 8210 automatic. One also gets this international guarantee booklet, which is translated into multiple foreign languages, including English. It details the terms and conditions of the 5-year international warranty. I want to give due credit to Citizen here, because often low-tier pieces at this price point of €247 only have a 1 or 2 year warranty. To get 5 years of international warranty is very good. And lastly, one also gets this Citizen cardboard tag, and on the reverse it has the full reference number of the NJ0151 Tsuyosa, and also the movement, the Caliber 8210, as well as the QR code and barcode for the piece. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 40mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 45mm, a thickness of 12.2mm. The integrated bracelet is a President style bracelet. At the widest point of the integrated bracelet, it tapers from 22mm at the integrated lugs down to 18mm at the 2-button push clasp. The 2-button push clasp is signed to a good standard with high definition engraving of the Citizen text logo. Beautiful luster to the brushed satin finishing to the body of the 316L grade stainless steel press clasp, and that contrasts with the mirror polishing to the flanks. The negative is there is only 3 micro adjustment holes, which is the bare minimum. I would like to see Citizen update this with a longer clasp with 4 or 5 micro adjustments, because in the absence of half links in the President style bracelet, it is difficult to get the correct fit. So I would like to see a longer clasp, either with micro adjustments or alternatively 4 or 5 holes drilled in the flanks to better allow for getting the correct fit. Alternatively, they could add half links either side of the clasp. That would enhance it. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and silver mirror polished baton handset. The Cyclops magnifier is also sapphire crystal, and it has AR coating on the underside. The negative is it is only 1.5 times magnification, which is negligible performance. To put this into perspective, Rolex used 2.5 times magnification with their Cyclops magnifier. That is now the industry standard for optimum performance. 1.5 times just does not enlarge the date complication enough, and I think Citizen should delete it because it will look better without it. 1.5 times is disappointing. On a positive note, the fonts used on the black Arabic numerals, both the singles and the doubles, is nice and crisp and sharp and high definition. The font isn't too thick and blurry, so one can clearly read the black Arabic numerals on the contrasting white date wheel. The size of the date window is correct, and also the alignment of the Arabic numerals left and right is correct, and also up and down. So proportions and the sizing are good. It's just a shame the Cyclops magnifier is actually undersized in proportion. It looks too small for the size of the date window. The orange Sunbear style has a nice metallic sheen to it, which catches the light. It's very aesthetically pleasing, nice metallic sheen to it, versus being matte orange or alternatively a glossy enamel finish. It does add interest, and I like the tone of it. The orange is very aesthetically pleasing. The silver mirror polished applied indices contrast very well, as does the baton handset. The white minute ticks on the chapter ring have nice high definition printing, they're nice and sharp and crisp, and next to each of the applied indices we have white squares on the chapter ring for the hour marks, so the legibility is very good, the clarity is good. I like the symmetry of the dial with the double applied indices at 12, they balance with the double applied indices at 6, the dial layout is good, the proportions of the indices and the handset work very well. The baton hand is slightly short, it doesn't extend all the way to the minute ticks, but it is acceptable. The second hand is also slightly short, it doesn't quite reach the minute ticks, but it is good enough. The proportion of the hour baton hand is correct, it extends all the way to the applied indices. So the handset, the baton hands have nice facets, they're not flat, and the quality of the mirror polishing is very good. So I like the dial layout and also the handset. The readability, the legibility is good, and the clarity of the sapphire crystal with AR coating is excellent. The bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, mirror polished, flat profile to it rather than a domed profile, and the edge of it is also mirror polished. Nice chamfer to it, so no sharp edge, and it's very low profile, which is aesthetically pleasing. I like the sapphire crystal has a nice bevel on the edge of it which catches the light. It projects slightly above the flat bezel, so proportions of the bezel and also the bevel on the edge of the crystal are correct. Now, with regards to the finishing to the case, the top of the angular lugs on the integrated lugs are brushed satin finished to a good standard, beautiful luster, and that contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. The flanks have a nice slender profile rather than being tall and slab-sided, and that visually gives a nice aesthetic look. It looks like a thinner case than it actually is. This piece is only 12.2mm, but visually it looks a lot lower profile than that due to the low profile flanks. Along the top edge of the case there's a transition, a large mirror polished bevel which runs the full length of the angular tips to the integrated lugs, and it flows nicely down the curved profile of the flanks. The mirror polishing to the bevels on the top edge of the case are very good. The undercut to the case doesn't have any sharp edge, it's been deburred and chamfered very well, and the four corners, the tips of the lugs, have also been chamfered very well. So the case finishing, bezel finishing are excellent. Let's look at the end links in the bracelet and the bracelet in detail. So, integrated links, the bracelet, which is President style, tapers from 22 to 18, as I've detailed. The integrated end links articulate freely, they don't feel stiff or kink, that's the positive. However, the negative is too much play, poor quality tolerances. This should be an interference friction fit. The hole is clearly too large, or alternatively the pin is undersized for it, because you can see lateral, side to side, up and down, longitudinal play. Play in every single direction. It clicks and it rattles, so disappointing at the €247 price point. One can be magnanimous about this kind of build quality, quality control and tolerances below €100 in the low tier, but this is €247 and therefore wholly unacceptable. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, same problem. Lateral, side to side, up and down, longitudinal play, and it is significant play, enough to make it click and rattle. Now, on a positive note, because it's sloppy, of course, it does articulate freely. It doesn't feel stiff or kink, but too much play in every direction. Unfortunately, that's not the only problem. The President style bracelet visually looks aesthetically pleasing. On a positive note, the brushed satin finishing to the outer President style links is very good. Nice fine grained finish, beautiful luster to the outer links. The centre links are mirror polished to a good standard, so it does catch the light and look very visually appealing. The mirror polished flanks are also finished to a good standard, no sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge, so it doesn't feel sharp. They are the positives. The bracelet does not pull arm hair, it does feel comfortable, and another positive is it articulates freely, no stiff links. However, the negative is every single one of the President style links has excessive longitudinal, lateral, side to side and up and down play. Play in every single direction. It's a sloppy bracelet and it rattles when on wrist. And it's really excessive play. Now, they could refine this simply by tightening up the tolerances, making the holes smaller and the pins larger, and that would give a nice interference fit. But the cumulative effect across the length of the bracelet is, with all the play in every single one of the links, it's very sloppy and rattles. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, articulates freely, no stiff links, which is the positive, doesn't have sharp edges to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks, doesn't pull arm hair, and it's very flexible and comfortable. Beautiful luster to it, beautiful mirror polishing, but look at the amount of play. It rattles. Every single one of the links has significant lateral, side to side, up and down play. And again, the cumulative effect of all this play in every single one of the links across the length of the bracelet is it's sloppy, it rattles. And that's compounded by the excess play in the integrated end links in every direction. So poor quality end links, poor quality bracelet tolerances. Let's look at the clasp in detail. So pressed stainless steel clasp, light gauge to the 316L grade stainless steel. The finishing is good. Brushed satin finishing has a beautiful luster. The mirror polishing is good. Nice large bevel, which is also mirror polished. Doesn't have sharp corners. The four corners are deburred well. The top edge and the low edge don't have sharp edges, so the finishing is good, but the gauge is very light. This is a cost-cutting measure. 2 button push triggers are mirror polished to a good standard. No sharp edges. Light spring-loaded action. Opens freely. This is a cost-cutting measure too far. Up until the early 2000s, pressed stainless steel clasps were the industry standard, but in 2025, solid milled 316L grade stainless steel clasps are now the industry standard. Even on low-tier pieces costing below €100 price point, one expects a solid milled clasp, not a pressed clasp. This is €247. Wholly unacceptable to see a pressed stainless steel clasp at this price point. Now, the quality of the finishing is good. The mirror polishing is good. No sharp edges to the flanks. The top edge and the low edge have been deburred and chamfered. Doesn't have sharp corners to the centre, so that's good. And the quality of the mirror polishing is done to a good standard. So they are the positives, and it does snap shut with a nice positive click. The 2 triggers do open it with a good, easy, free action. Let's check the hinge pins. Again, too much play. This is a disgrace to Citizen. Absolutely dreadful. Longitudinal, lateral, side to side, up and down play. Play in every single direction, and it clicks and rattles. Simply down to poor quality tolerances from Citizen. The hole is too large for the spring bar inside it, and you can see it rattles. Let's check the centre pin now. Just bear with me, I'll put my glove behind it and then you'll be able to see it better. It wobbles. Click side to side, lateral side to side play, longitudinal, up and down play. Play in every single direction, and we're talking about significant play. One can be magnanimous about this poor quality tolerance with a low tier piece costing below €100. This is €247. We're not looking at a low tier Chinese brand. This is Citizen, made in Japan. Dreadful. It clicks. Finally, let's check the right hand hinge pin. Same problem. Lateral, side to side, up and down, longitudinal play. Play in every single direction, and it's significant play. Now again, one could be magnanimous if this were below €100. This is €247. Look at the amount of play. Dreadful. This is a disgrace to Citizen. Again, the cumulative effect is left hand, centre and right hand hinge pin have play. And together, this makes the press clasp rattle. It's very sloppy. My concern is long-term durability. How long is it going to be before one of these hinge pins, in the elongated holes, the riveted ends wear off, or alternatively the pin just shears due to the excessive load, due to the excessive play, the poor tolerances. It rattles and it has too much play, therefore the pins are put under excessive shear load. Long-term durability is the concern. They really need to update this in 2025 to a solid milled stainless steel clasp, tighten up the tolerances of the 3 hinge pins, have a micro adjustment clasp, or alternatively, at the minimum, a heavier gauge of 316L grade stainless steel, longer clasp with 4 or 5 micro adjustments. This is wholly unacceptable. Poor quality clasp on a poor quality bracelet. So let's test the push-pull crown execution. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished. Another cost-cutting measure, which is disappointing. Mirror polished domed cap. It's sterile, unsigned. It should be embossed or engraved with Citizen, or alternatively a C for Citizen, but they've left it sterile. This is a cost-cutting measure in order to reduce production costs and maximise profit margin per piece. The quality of the finishing is good, the mirror polishing is good, and the tips of the coin edge teeth have a nice chamfer, so no sharp edge. So the quality of the finishing is good, but the proportion is undersized. The problem with this recessed crown on the right hand flank being recessed is only the lower portion of it is exposed. So, as this is a push-pull crown rather than a screw-down crown, you can manually wind it when it's closed, but you can't get a grip of it with your thumb, as per normal. You have to use your tip of your index finger to rotate the exposed portion on the underside of the right hand flank. Now, to fully wind a Miyota caliber 8210 when it's dead, when the mainspring is fully exhausted to its maximum 42-hour power reserve, you have to rotate the crown 40 clockwise turns fully. And it's very laborious to rub the crown with the tip of your index finger on the underside 40 times to manually wind it. Of course, it's a lot easier if you pull out the crown and you manually wind it with your index finger and thumb. as per normal. But you can't do that with this because it's a push-pull crown, not a screw-down crown. And although the coin edge finishing is well finished, there's no sharp edge to it, it's been deburred and chamfered well, it's got a nice chamfer, it's tiring to rub that 40 times with the tip of your finger because it's recessed. It's a laborious way of manually winding. Now in terms of manually winding, it feels stiff. It doesn't feel rough or gritty, but it has heavy resistance, heavier than a Seiko NH35A for example, and of course it's more pleasant to wind in an NH35A because normally they have screw down crowns and you pull out the crown and then you manually wind it. You can get good grip with your index finger and thumb. This 8210 feels very stiff to manually wind. It does feel smooth, but you can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up, but there's a lot of friction and resistance in the gearing. So you've really got to rub your finger against it hard in order to get the crown to rotate because it's closed, and you can feel the friction of the rubber O-ring inside the stainless steel crown and the second rubber O-ring inside the stainless steel crown tube, which provide 50 meters of hermetic seal. There's a lot of friction, so it's not pleasant to manually wind. Pulling out the crown to the first click position is that's the time setting, I'll get it again. Pulling out the crown to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the quick set date complication, and it does click over with a nice positive click. In terms of the indexing, it feels lighter than a Seiko NH35A, so one has to become accustomed to it. It's a characteristic of Miyota. I need to pull it back out again. Now we're in the quick set complication setting. So it's a characteristic of the 8000 series of Miyota calibers. They have a light feeling, and it's gone back in again. So this is the problem with this recessed crown. Even setting the date, when you pull it out to the first click to set it, you can't get purchase with your index finger and thumb. It doesn't project enough from the right hand flank. So again, you have to rub your finger against the underside of it, but you have to be careful not to accidentally push it in, because then of course you move it out of the quick set complication, you close the crown again. Really, I think this crown is undersized for a recessed crown. They should have made it larger so that when you pull it out, it projects more from the right hand flank. This is now pulled out to the date setting position, and you can see it doesn't project very much. You can't get purchase with your thumb, you have to rub your index finger against it, and it's gone back in again. It's not very pleasant to set the date. So it clicks over the lighter indexing to the NH35A. I prefer the NH35A, has a heavier indexing, feels more robust. Pulling it out to the second click position fully exposes the crown, as you can see, and again it doesn't really project very much. You can now finally get your index finger and thumb purchased on it. This is now the time setting position. Now, early versions of the Miyota Calibre 8210 did not have hacking, but then Miyota updated the 8210 to include hacking, and you can see this one is the later version. The second hand has now stopped dead, so it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the updated version of the Calibre 8210, so that's good. We're now in the time setting position, and one can get good purchase in the time setting position on the crown with the thumb and index finger. Light resistance to it, feels quite similar to an NH35A. You can feel the friction in the gearing. I don't think the tolerances are as good as the NH35A, and they're certainly a level below the premium grade of Miyota calibers, the 9000 series, such as the 9015. It doesn't feel gritty or rough, but it doesn't feel smooth. There's a lot of friction in the gearing, and you really have to rotate the crown with a lot of torsion. You have to give it a lot of force in order to get the hand to move. Now, there is some back play, so you have to take up some slack. That's a characteristic of 8000 series movements, such as this Calibre 8215. You just have to live with it. I prefer the NH35A. It feels smoother and lighter to set the time. So it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the second hand begins to sweep around the dial with a characteristic stutter or judder of the 3 Hz sweep. This is a negative of the 8000 series, such as this Calibre 8210. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz, like the NH35A, and so therefore it has that stutter or judder to the second hand. It doesn't smoothly sweep at 4 Hz, as per the Miyota 9015, which runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour respectively. I prefer the smooth sweep of a 4 Hz second hand versus the stutter or judder of the 3 Hz. But this is subjective. For the majority of collectors, the 3 Hz stutter or judder isn't a problem. Right, so I'll give you wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the President style bracelet, and on a positive note, I'm pleased to report it will easily fit up to a 9-inch wrist because I can easily slide 2 fingers underneath the bracelet and President style bracelet and clasp at all times, and it's on its maximum extension of 3 micro adjustment holes. So this is the absolute maximum. It will fit a 9-inch wrist. So no concerns if you are a collector with a larger than 8-inch wrist. The President style bracelet does look visually very aesthetically pleasing. I think the taper would look better and more aesthetically pleasing if it used the industry standard 20-16 taper. At 22 at its widest point to 18, it's very thick. There's a lot of meat on the bracelet for a 40mm head of the piece. The bracelet does look slightly too wide and too thick, too much meat on it for a 40mm head of the piece. 22 to 18 is the industry standard for larger pieces, 41 and 42mm head of the pieces. 40mm head of the pieces usually have a 20-16 taper. 22 to 18 really is rather wide, especially at the clasp end. 18 is a lot of meat. But the surprising thing is the lack of heft. With the wide bracelet and the integrated case, I would expect this to be circa 150 grams or above. This is only 139 grams with all the links in the President style bracelet. Now, of course, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or even a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you're going to be removing 5 or 6 links from the bracelet, and that will reduce it to below 130 grams. Even with all the links in the President style bracelet, which is very thick, this is only 139. So comfortable piece to wear, and it's deceptive because it is low profile at only 12.2mm thick. Bearing in mind it has an exhibition case back. That is the benefit of Citizen making this 50 meters rather than 100 meters, because they've used a very thin flat sapphire crystal and also a thin exhibition case back. That's reduced the thickness to only 12.2. So low profile piece, but it does have a large gap beneath the left hand and the right hand flanks because they are very slender. They've got large undercuts, and the angular profile to the tips of the integrated lugs, you can see there are large gaps beneath the case, so it does sit on top of the wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. It does have a large gap beneath the case. It does not wrap around the wrist as per a tonneau case, which is more curved profile. That's just the negative of an angular case with integrated lugs. It does have that angular profile, and of course one inevitably gets the gap beneath the tips of the lugs. The integrated bracelet does articulate well, and the President style bracelet does feel very flexible, so it does feel very comfortable to wear. It doesn't pull arm hairs, and there's no sharp edges to the flanks as I've detailed, so the finishing is good, but it rattles. That's the negative, and you can hear it rattle on wrist, and I think there's too much meat on it, but it is an aesthetically pleasing piece. The orange sunburst dial does look very good. I like the symmetry of the applied indices with the double indices at 12 and 6. It looks balanced. The baton hands are clearly legible. AR coating works well, and the orange sunburst dial has a nice tone which changes colour from a light orange to a darker orange. The bezel looks correctly proportioned. I like the mirror polishing to the bevels on the edge of the case. So aesthetically pleasing piece. Comfort level is good. Feel good factor is good, but I just think the President style bracelet has too much meat on it. If this were 20 to 16, it would look so much better. 22 to 18 is too much meat on the bracelet. But good looking piece, low profile. Needless to say, this will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. Anything below 150 grams is the sweet spot, and at 12.2, this is very low profile. Anything below 13mm is low profile. 139 grams is good, feels balanced despite the heavy bracelet. The clasp feels too light. This really does need a micro adjustment clasp, or alternatively a solid milled stainless steel clasp, because the light gauge of pressed stainless steel really does feel too light and undersized. It needs a longer clasp to balance the meat of the bracelet, because 22 to 18 really is a very thick and heavy bracelet. The other thing to notice, the bracelets, the profile, they're very thick. The President style links are very chunky, so they do stick quite proud from the wrist. And I would say if you have a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you may find the head of the piece doesn't have too much wrist presence, but the bracelet itself does have too much wrist presence because of the thickness. This is not a low profile bracelet like an oyster bracelet or alternatively a Jubilee bracelet. The President style bracelet is very thick. The links are large in proportion and thickness. So it feels like a heavy bracelet on a correctly weighted head of the piece with an underweighted clasp. The clasp is too light and thin for a heavy bracelet like this. They really could refine it. 20 to 16 with a micro adjustment clasp or solid mill clasp would better balance the bracelet clasp with the head of the piece. So feel good factor and comfort is good. Lack of heft is good at 139 grams, and it's low profile at 12.2. The lug to lug is short, so it's a compact case, 45 millimeters. It will fit you if you have a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist, but you're going to find the bracelet has too much meat, so I would consider wearing it on a strap. But the problem with the integrated lugs, of course, is that limits your strap options. Really, the bracelet is the only option. So comfortable, aesthetically pleasing, but just not very well balanced due to the meat on the bracelet and the taper being too thick. So let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So Citizen call the super luminova they use Naturalite, and really it's like the Citizen equivalent of Seiko Luma Bright. In terms of the colour and the performance, the Naturalite used on this piece looks very similar to C3 super luminova. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, initially it looks good. The exciter appears to glow very brightly in the Naturalite super luminova, so it looks very similar to C3 super luminova. There's no discernible difference between green Naturalite and C3 super luminova. However, there is a cost-cutting measure here I want you to be aware of. Unfortunately, this only has 3 to 4 layers, because you will see exponentially with time the exciter begins to dim and it fades quickly. So this is a cost-cutting measure by Citizen in order to reduce production costs and therefore maximise profit margin per piece. 3 to 4 layers is often used by low-tier brands in order to maximise profit margin. 5 to 6 is the industry standard. It is optimum because it gives the best performance. And it's very disappointing to see it at this price point of €247. One can be magnanimous about 3 to 4 layers as a cost-cutting measure with below €100 price point pieces in the low tier. One has to be realistic and expect some cost cutting. But this is €247, but only 3 to 4 layers, not 5 to 6. Now you can see the Naturalite Lume is now beginning to fade on the applied indices and the baton handset. In terms of colour tone, in daylight, it looks the same white tone. The Naturalite looks the same on the applied indices and the baton hands, the same white. It's not cream and white. The match is good. In the dark, the green tone of it matches perfectly. It doesn't look brighter or darker on the indices or the handset. Proportions of the handset are good. One can clearly differentiate between the longer baton minute hand and the shorter baton hour hand. So you can tell which is which is good. I like the double applied indices at 12 and the double applied indices at 6. It balances the dial, but you can quickly orientate the dial and tell where is 12, where is 6. And of course, the proportions of the indices are good. The legibility is good. You can read the time in the dark, which is good. But it's now fading rapidly. And I can tell you as time goes on, the exciter in the Naturalite is going to fade rapidly, and that clearly indicates 3 to 4. We're not looking at the optimum performance of 5 to 6. Disappointing performance, and I think that Citizen really need to enhance this to 5 to 6, which is the industry standard. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. So, this is powered by the Miyota Caliber 8210. Citizen are the parent company, they own Miyota. So, the 8210 was released in 2023 at the same time as this NJ0151 Tsuyosa. Effectively, the 8210 has the same architecture as the 8215. It is the gilt version of it, and it's made specifically for Citizen pieces, rather than being sold to other brands under the Miyota name. But the architecture of the 8215 is the same as the 8210 used in this piece, it's just the gilt version of it. Early versions of the 8210 did not have hacking, which was a negative, and then Miyota upgraded the movement to include hacking. This one is the later version of the 8210, and as I've demonstrated, one can hack the movement and set the time precisely to the second. So it's only been in service since 2023. It only has 2 years of service, but there are no reliability issues reported. As the architecture of it is based upon the 8215, it is well proven. The 8215 has been in service since 1977. It's had an incredibly long production run, and it is incredibly reliable and robust. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Japanese-made caliber. So I would have no concerns about the 8210 because the architecture is the same as the 8215. So although it's only been in use since 2023, its predecessor, or the movement it's based upon, the 8215, has been in service since 1977, and it is reliable. 21 joules, it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which are useful complications, and a quick set date complication, which works well. The stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day, so a rather wide accuracy range. This one has been regulated to +8, which is well within the -20 to +40 stated accuracy. +8 isn't very impressive, but it is okay for a Miyota 8000 series. Has a 42-hour power reserve, which is perfectly acceptable. So what are the negatives to it? Well, the main negative to this movement, as per all Miyota 8000 series, is the noisy rotor. The rotor spins freely, but the problem with it is it's very noisy, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. When it spins round, you can hear it. It's audible. And you can notice it on wrist. You can hear the sound of it. Now, to put it into perspective, it's louder than an NH35A, which sounds okay. And it's much louder than a Miyota 9015, which is a premium grade of Miyota caliber. The 9000 series are better. Better build quality, quality control, materials, finishing, and of course tolerances. Also more accurate. They run at 4 Hz, which is more aesthetically pleasing. So it's disappointing to see a base model of Miyota caliber, an 8000 series such as the 8210 used in this NJ0151 Tsuyosa. Bear in mind, Citizen own Miyota. There's no excuse for them not using a premium grade of Miyota caliber such as the 9015, which is a very good quality movement, accurate, reliable, 4 Hz, and superior build quality, finishing, quality control, materials. This 8210 really is a very low quality movement. It's a basic Miyota caliber. Yes, it's reliable, but it's not very accurate. +8 seconds per day isn't very impressive. It does have hacking and hand winding, and it does have 42 hours, but it is okay. But I would prefer to see a 9015. The benefit if they use the 9015 is it's a thinner caliber, and they could reduce the thickness of this piece below 12.2. They could reduce it by another millimetre to only 11.1. That would enhance the comfort level, the feel-good factor, and the user experience. It would feel better at 11.1, and it would still use an Exhibition case back. So, noisy rotor is one negative. The other negative is, if you look at the rotor, you can see it's engraved with an arrow of direction because this is a unidirectional winding caliber. What that means is the rotor can spin clockwise and anti-clockwise, but it only winds automatically with the rotor when it spins anti-clockwise only. When the rotor spins clockwise on wrist, it has negligible winding effect. It does not wind the movement. Therefore, it's inefficient because it only winds in one direction. With better quality movements that are bidirectional, such as the Miyota 9015, they are bidirectional. The rotor can spin clockwise or anti-clockwise, and it will wind it in both directions. This is another reason why I think Citizen should use a premium grade of 9000 series Miyota caliber, such as the 9015. A better quality winding, clockwise and anti-clockwise. So not only is it noisy, but it only winds anti-clockwise. When it rotates clockwise, it doesn't do anything. They are the two negatives I want you to be aware of. So, lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, low tier piece, the price point is €247. I'm going to declare it okay quality, and I'm going to declare it poor value at €247. The reason why I say it's okay quality and not good or excellent quality is the cost-cutting measures. 3 to 4 layers of Naturalite Superluminova is a cost-cutting measure. Only 1.5 times magnification is a cost-cutting measure. We're looking at poor quality, build quality and tolerances throughout. Play in the end links is wholly unacceptable. Sloppy bracelet with play in the push pins. Play in all 4 hinge pins of the press clasp. The press clasp itself is a cost-cutting measure too far, light gauge to the body, and only 3 micro-adjustment holes. This is wholly unacceptable at €247. Cost-cutting measure after cost-cutting measure downgrades the quality from excellent to good down to okay. So I'm going to say it's okay. It does have sapphire crystal with AR coating, and yes, everything does work okay. The push-pull crown works okay. Hand winding, hacking and manual winding. It does have an exhibition case back, but the bracelet and the 3 to 4 layers, as well as the 1.5 times magnification, they all downgrade it to okay quality. Value is definitely poor. At €247, this does face stiff competition from low-tier Chinese brands with better specification and also better build quality, because often they will have screw pins in the bracelets, solid milled stainless steel clasps, micro adjustment clasps, sapphire crystal glazing in the exhibition case back, and 5 to 6 layers of C3 Superluminova or BGW9 Superluminova, plus a 2.5 times magnification Cyclops magnifier. So, stiff competition from Chinese low-tier brands and also micro brands. The other thing is, at this price point, one starts to see better quality movements, such as the Miyota 9015, which is a premium grade of Miyota caliber, versus base versions of Miyota calibers in the 8000 series, such as this 8210. So, okay quality, poor value. I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration, but bear in mind the quality control issues and the cost cutting with regards to the specification. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Citizen NJ0151 Tsuyosa. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.